Welcome to BlizzCon 2018, brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
We've got Peter, Waylon, and Liv. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Breeden, available for you. We can open it up to question and answer.
And for context, we're both designers on the Hearthstone team. Yep.
There you go. Let's kick this off.
Please.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first.
Good.
So could you guys talk about things have shifted, in the last year or so towards where each set, the legendaries are very all in line with each other. At first they were pretty sporadic, spread all over, but now things like every class has a Death Knight, every class has a legendary weapon, and I believe you guys said that every class this time will have a
both a Loa and a champion.
Yeah, exactly. So could you guys talk about how that helps you guys as far as like...
We try and do different things in different sets, whatever fits the set, right? Whatever makes the most sense. And when we're doing teams and team spirit, it kind of makes sense that everyone has like the top level, the champion, the person to look up to, but there's also the Loa that you center your entire visual look around the mechanical look. Everything fits around it. Like it's easy for us to have one thing to look at and be like, this is the guiding light for this team. All of our designs can circle around that.
Yeah, at a high level, we started doing the 2 legendaries per expansion, I think in Ungoro, and there, everybody had a quest and also another thing. And then in Knights, everybody had a hero card and then another thing, a legendary weapon, another thing. And then Witchwood kind of broke that mold, right? The Witchwood just had 2 legendary minions. There wasn't a particular theme for any of them. And there's good things and bad things to each of them. We can tell a particular story, like legendary inventor plus legendary science fair project or whatever. And then Witchwood is more, there's a bunch of creatures out in the woods. It's this ghost story that you're telling in the tavern, and so it doesn't make sense for there to be this lineup of, oh, monster, 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 worgen, 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 or whatever. And so we kind of do what's right for the expansion. For this one, that team's vibe is so important that we really wanted all of the teams to line up so that you could look at it and say, okay, I love this team. Who is my Loa? Who is my champion? Who is my spirit? And so that was really important to getting this expansion across, so that's why we did it here.
So one of the things that I'm most interested in is how Hearthstone continues to bring back players that have left. Like me, I come back, I leave, I come back, I leave. I loved Witchwood.
Great.
It was such an interesting expansion. How is this expansion going to continue that trend of, hey, Hearthstone's really changed. Why should they come back?
There's lots of awesome stuff going on. This is Rosticon's Rumble. So if you're a World of Warcraft player and you love trolls, we've got your trolls. There are a ton of trolls and characters that you remember from World of Warcraft here. If you're not a World of Warcraft player, maybe you love team-based events like, gladiatorial combat. You got a bunch of people beating on each other. Maybe you like voodoo or mysticism or magic, and so you can go with the Dragonhawks. Maybe you just like setting things on fire. Don't tell us, but then the Dragonhawks, they're there for you. Maybe you like, sacrificing innocents. Then you've got Warlocks and Hyreek's Bats. So all of the different teams have these different parts that appeal to different people. And so if you're a player that's last and you look at this, the hope is that there's a team that appeals to you. There's somebody that speaks to you. Maybe you are big and strong and you want to ram your head into your problems and the rhinos are there for you. Maybe you see yourself as a good guy, as a goody two-shoes and a paragon of virtue and a champion of the light. Then Shirvala's Tigers are for you. You get Shirvala the Loa, who's this 25 mana, 7/5 lifesteal, divine shield rush. It's a huge beast, if you'll pardon the pun. And she's fantastic. And so all of these different teams appeal to different people. And so that's the thing that you described, where people play some Hearthstone and then they leave and they come back and they leave and they come back. That's totally healthy. That's a great way to engage with the game. And we're excited to see lots of new players come back for Rosticon's Rumble.
So I know I've talked to you guys countless times, and you always mention how careful you are about negative feelings, like opponents discarding their hands, stuff like that.
Or destroying half their deck?
Yeah, that's essentially where I'm getting to. Like, because with the Warlock Legendary that destroys your opponent's deck, that takes like forever to get to. So it's kind of understandable. Like, it's not, you know, too awful. But this one's like actually readily available at 8 mana. So can you just talk about designing that card and like how that doesn't cause issues with you guys?
Sure. I mean, like, it appeals to a very specific type of player, right? Like, not everyone's going to put Void Contract in their deck because, I mean, not only do you have to, like, get to turn 8, but you have to, like, spend turn 8 playing Void Contract. So, like, the people who do that are the ones who really want to do that. I think people who are playing, like, Zoo and being aggressive aren't going to play that just to play it. It's for a specific type of player, so.
There's something healthy about having those kind of negative feelings, and you're the type of player who really wants to play Gnome Feratu just to burn your opponent's cards, and that's really satisfying for a group of players, just like Liv mentioned. And so it's great to have that kind of card in moderation. We have to be very, very careful about how we make that kind of griefing type card, and Warlock is a good place for it. Warlock is pretty evil. They're all about sacrificing, and they're about being mean in some sense, and so that kind of griefing card is a good fit for them.
Probably have more questions I can ask.
Please.
So can you guys speak to what the design cycle was like for this expansion? Like, once you guys decided that this was the direction that you were going to go with the concept, how long did it take you guys to finally flesh it all out and get to this point?
Yeah, so like for the initial design team, like we spent about 16 weeks before we passed it off to final design. And during that process, we decide who the Loa are, who their champions are, and that took us like a month just to figure out like who matches for each class. Then there's a mixture of like what do all the teams look like, what do their voice lines do. So it takes about 16 weeks to nail down all the mechanics and the art and the VO and all that sort of stuff before passing it off to final design.
Yep, and then final design takes the set and they refine a lot of the stuff that we've handed off. So we'll give them 135 cards, which is the number that we'll end up shipping, and it had spirits and Loa and Overkill and some cool designs, I think. But then they'll take that and they'll refine a lot of the mechanics. They'll tweak the Loa so they're cooler. They'll make it so the spirits work better with the Loa. The spirits are these 0/3 minions. They have stealth for 1 turn, and they work really well with the Loa in their class. They kind of go in the same deck. We wanted to encourage people to get this rare spirit and then try to build a cool deck around it. And then if you want, you could also add on the cool legendary Loa as sort of the cherry on top. And so final design will take all of that stuff and they'll work on it, they'll iterate, and they'll make an awesome set that's fair and fun and has cool themes and all of that stuff. And then at the same time, we've got outside artists that are working on all of the card art, and we'll give feedback. We've got people working on the golden animations for all of that stuff. And so now final design's starting to finish up. We'll go and we'll record all of the VO lines as you play minions. Our sound guys will work on all the cool sound effects that happen when you do a thing. Effects artists will do all of their stuff, like the frog summoning on Toad summoning. The cannonballs on Cannon Barrage. So all of that stuff, Void Conjure blowing up half of the deck. I don't think we've shown that animation yet, but I think it's pretty cool. The Loa all have insane animations, like Shrivala jumps on the board as this like ethereal, ghostly Loa thing, and it jumps on the board. They're awesome. I really like all of the Loa animations. I think they're some of the best we've ever done. Yep. And so that'll start happening now. Final design's done, animation's working on it, engineering is cleaning up some of the horrible things that we've done. Often design just gets the card working, yes, and then engineering makes it so it actually works like all of the time. And it doesn't crash the server ever, or the client, or whatever horrible things we've done in design.
There's been a lot of times where it's like, don't play Channel, it'll crash.
Yeah, we do some bad stuff when we're implementing cards for the first time, just to like try and get a feel for how it works. And then so at this point, engineering is going to clean it up, and then we get towards the very end of our cycle, and our PR team starts working on it and trying to figure out like, how are we going to reveal all of these cards? What's our BlizzCon plan? How are we going to do all of that stuff? And then now we're here. Yeah. And then in a month, it's going to be live. And then we'll see what awesome things our players can do with it. So basically, it's a full year cycle with different people working on it for around 16 weeks for a team.
Yeah. I know you said final design obviously touches things up and that kind of stuff, but can you talk about designing 0 attack cards that are actually hopefully going to be great?
Yeah.
So like the spirits, Like we talked about in the panel, we went through a lot of iterations on that, and some of the things like high health came into consideration, but the 0-3s, they're pretty cool because you can guarantee that your combo will be there for a turn unless your opponent really doesn't want it to be there. But you can almost count on it being there for 1 to 2 turns, and that feels really good. It feels like all your combos work. You don't have to worry about like playing it out and making sure you have all the pieces all at once to play them all in 1 turn. You can like throw it out and take the chance, and maybe you can play a bunch of them the next turn, and it feels really awesome.
Yeah, imagine you had Bran Bronzebeard, but he always lived.
Right, like
how insane is that?
Like you don't play
It's pretty
Bran
cool.
for the 2 health or the 2 attack, so like this is really exciting.
Yeah, we wanted to do some cards that were built around that. You could build your deck in this direction, in large part because people really like that stuff. Like quests are some of our most popular cards ever because they tell you, do this thing and look at your collection differently and try it out and do a thing in this direction. And spirits are kind of one of the evolutions of quests or spell stones. And now this, where it's less, I'm going to do a thing and build up something powerful in my hand, and more, I'm going to signal to my opponent, look out, next turn's awesome. You should set up your defenses because I'm going to do some stuff. And if they don't give you the opportunity, maybe they're scared of you killing all their minions with this. Maybe they're worried about SI7 agent, or maybe they're scared about you generating giant pogo hoppers, or whatever it is that you're doing. And they can set up for that because you're telegraphing your awesome play. But in exchange, you get to make your awesome play, which sometimes you don't get to do with your build-around cards.
Or maybe you bluff with it. You just throw out the spirits, see what they do. Maybe you pull a Hellfire. I don't know, that's possible.
Yeah, and there's some cards that get better with spirits in the metagame, right? There's Hellfire, there's Multi-Shot, there's Void, whatever his name is, the 3/3 that flips attack and health.
Oh, yeah.
Void Ripper, I think?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm really bad at release names for cards.
But I mean, it also, like, spirits are awesome because they also help you build the deck, right? I know a lot of people struggle with building decks, and on launch day we're giving you a random legendary and the 2 spirits that match, right? So you're able to put those 3 cards in a deck and then just put all the cool things that match those things, and it makes it a lot easier to get there.
We're updating Whizbang too.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you love Whizbang from Boomsday Project, he'll get all, well, I'm not going to say all new decks, but he'll get a bunch of new decks that use the Rostacon's Rumble cards. As we update the deck recipes, then Whizbang updates.
I wanted to ask about, so more like kind of you were talking about the destruction of your opponent's deck,
Being
right?
mean.
So you have like Demonic Project,
Absolutely.
Nosferatu, and the recent reveal of Void Contract. But we've also had a Paladin card released in the past called Rebuke, which stalled your opponent's spells that costing 5 or more. I was wondering if there was any particular reason why, up to this point, the stalling of combo pieces like Shadowhawk or Malagos, they're pretty prevalent in competitive space. So I was wondering if there's a particular reason why that disruption of those combo pieces wasn't further explored for other classes.
It's kind of a mix of things. It's one of those things that's really healthy to have in sometimes. Dirty Rat's a great example. Dirty Rat was a pretty cool way to interact with combo pieces. It was a little bit of, it was a fair amount of randomness, where sometimes your Dirty Rat would hit something, sometimes it would miss. It's definitely something that we're always exploring, is how can we do different things. Rebuke's a good example of how can we do things that make different classes feel differently. Ice Block was an example of a mage card that if you were scared about a damage combo, Ice Block could often save you, and then you play something like Reno afterwards and you're at full health again. So we're exploring different ways for different classes to interact with combo cards. It's also the kind of thing that there's going to be more and less of it as time goes on. So sometimes you're going to see lots of cards that disrupt combos, sometimes you're going to see not very many. We're in a point right now where there's not a ton of ways to interact with powerful combo cards.
One of the things I noticed, we've only obviously seen like 16 cards so far, so any amount of kind of pattern, it sticks out like a sore thumb or whatever. But there's actually a good amount of cards in the set, I think there's like 3 or 4, that feel hand buffy, like the priest one that buffs everything in your deck. There's the paladin one that goes into your deck. It's like a different take on hand buff. I think it's neat to see mechanics that were like a central focus of a set kind of like drift back in slowly over time. So could you just talk about like pulling from previous sets and kind of like inspiration?
Yeah, hand buffing is a fun mechanic. Basically, it's a cool way to interact with your cards that you haven't played yet without giving you enormous tempo on the board and setting you up for cool plays later. It slows the game down a little bit because instead of giving you giant minions on the board, it gives you giant minions that you're going to play in the future. Immortal Prelates, the 2-mana 1/3 That's Death Rattle shuffles back into your deck and keeps any enchantments. That's a pretty slow card. Surrender to Madness 2 is reasonably slow. It's going to buff the cards that you're going to draw in the future rather than just the hand buff stuff. Spirit of the Bat's a little different. That gives you some immediate tempo as soon as you play those cards. So it's a little bit less slow. But honestly, it's mostly just coincidence that you pick 14 cards or however many we've revealed so far from Rastigan's Rumble, and there's going to be some amount of pattern. I don't think there's a ton of hand buffing across the board in the expansion. It's more, it just happens to be in these ones.
But there are mechanics that are favorites for designers, and they're like, oh, I really like hand buffing, like we did it in Boomsday, so let's try that again. And so we revisited it, and it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's at least one more hand buffing card in this set.
It helps
some cool stuff.
reinforce class themes that didn't quite get there, like in previous sets. That way we can revisit them, give them a little more juice. Maybe people revisit those old decks with the new cards, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why, actually, let me phrase it a little differently. So you recently revealed that the hero card of this set is going to be the Hunter Vol'jin.
Zul'jin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because he's awesome.
Here's my clarification. So I'm still stuck on Vol'jin personally, but okay, Zul'jin. So
Poor Vol'jin.
right. So I was going
He was
to
my
ask.
war chief.
Yeah, there we go. I was going to ask, like, was this in direct response to the popularity of Deathstalker Rexar? Like, we're seeing it in almost practically every Hunter deck in competitive.
No, I think it was just that we thought Zul'jin was really awesome, right? And so, like, he's a pretty awesome character, so we just wanted to make him a hero card, right? He's one of the most, like, prolific trolls that people will just recognize, whether it goes back to, like, Warcraft 2 to Heroes of the Storm players. He's just known across a lot of different areas, right? So it just seems like a good, exciting person to make.
Yeah, when we made the list of who should be the hero card for this expansion, Zul'jin was basically at the top. And so, what class is Zul'jin? And I think Hunter's a pretty good fit. I think he's a pretty natural. He threw a lot of axes in his day, so that fits pretty well for Hunter. Yeah, he's cool mechanically. We haven't seen his design yet, but he fits into an interesting way to play Hunter.
So what kinds of balance issues have you all run into in playtesting the expansion?
So Shirvala the Tiger is the 25 mana 7/5 Lifesteal Rush Divine Shield, and whenever you cast spells, it reduces its cost by the amount of mana you spend. Okay, so once upon a time, Shirvala was a 30 mana 9/7 that reduced its cost by that much. And then somebody played Holy Wrath, and then Shirvala became a 25 mana 7/5 instead. Because Holy Wrath deals damage equal to its cost, and so that did 30 damage and killed someone. So that's an example of a balance issue. That it wasn't even a very good deck, but man, it felt bad when it happened. Pretty funny though. It was a good story. I was amused. It didn't happen to me, so that made it a lot more amusing.
Depends on which side of that you're on.
There's lots of cards that go through tuning steps.
Yeah, Malakras. I think
Oh yeah.
Malakras used to give you the coin too, or give it you himself. So you just Malakras forever, and it's degenerate gameplay, I guess. It falls into a repetitive.
Yeah, Hexler Malakras is the 8 mana 5/5 that's Battlecry. Add a copy of your opening hand to your hand, except for Malakras. So at some point we didn't have except for Malakras, and then we added except for Malakras. There were good reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Malakras plus like Arcane Missiles forever, because you also got the other cards. So, yeah, or worse, Malakras plus Frost Nova forever.
Yeah.
That was, we didn't want that. You didn't want that. Trust me.
Rastakan's Rumble comes out December 4th. You can pre-order today and get King Rastakhan himself as this new shaman alternate hero. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, he's cool looking.
Yeah.
We'll have more card reveals starting in a couple of weeks, sort of our normal schedule. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
For more BlizzCon coverage, check us out at blizzpro.com, subscribe to us here on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at BlizzPro.